So, good evening, all of you. Uh, let's start the discussion on the newspaper dated 30 July. So, the first important news is that says that Supreme Court in an order has said that retrospective green nod can be given. So, if you read here, it says that in a unanimous ruling, the Supreme Court held that the center can retrospectively grant environmental clearance for project in public interest under the Environment Protection Act 1986, not through a mere administrative office memorandum. Now, it basically what does it mean? So, it is talking about retrospective, basically retrospective clearance. So, what is the meaning of that? See, for this you will have to understand article number article number 20 of the Constitution. So, Article 20 says that no retrospective laws can be made with respect to criminal laws. With respect to criminal laws. Now, what is the meaning of retrospective laws? See, retrospective laws are those laws which are applicable from back date. For example, if today I pass a bill in the parliament and I say that the bill will be applicable from, let's say, 1/1/2010. So if I backdate the applicability of any law, it is called as a retrospective law. It's called a retrospective law. Now, under Article 20, the Constitution of India says that no criminal law can be made a retrospective. Means, if you commit a crime today, if Mr. X commits a crime today, so whatever punishment for that crime is mentioned in the law on this date, that much punishment only can be granted. Let's say tomorrow the parliament changes the law and grants us more severe punishment, but the person who has committed the crime today will be given the punishment which is mentioned today in the law. ठीक है? Why? Because criminal laws cannot be made retrospective in effect. Criminal laws cannot be made retrospective in effect. But Article 20 says that it is only for the criminal laws. It is only for the criminal laws. Civil laws can be made retrospective. Civil laws can be made retrospective. Now, talking about this news here, this says that under Environment Protection Act, now center has made certain changes under Environment Protection Act. So as per these changes, now getting clearance for infrastructure project have become tougher. Many new criterias have been imposed to obtain the clearance for infrastructure project. Environmental clearance has been made more stringent. Now the Supreme Court has said, suppose earlier there were 5 criteria to obtain environmental clearance, okay, and now it has been made 7 criteria. Let's say some project which started like at this point of time, so it was satisfying 5 criteria, that's why it got environmental clearance, but today center has increased the number of criteria to 7. So we are speaking hypothetically here. So let's say the center has increased the number of criteria to 7. Now, will this project, the environment clearance given to this project will be cancelled because it is not satisfying 2 extra criteria? No, it will not be cancelled. Why? Because the time when the environmental clearance was granted for that particular project, at that time it was satisfying all the criteria. So that's why Supreme Court is saying that a retrospective green nod can be given with respect to Environmental Protection Act. So whatever infrastructure project, whichever project were given clearance earlier, now their clearance cannot be withheld or withdrawn now on the grounds that clearance has been made more tougher, or more grounds for clearance has been basically created. So on that ground, the clearance cannot be withdrawn. So that's what Supreme Court has said today in this judgment. Okay, so let's move to the next news. So moving to the next news, it says that Rajya Sabha passes bill criminalizing insult to Vande Mataram. So we had discussed this news in the past class also. So that it says that Rajya Sabha on Wednesday passed a bill that criminalizes intentional disruption or prevention of the singing of the national song Vande Mataram, thereby according it legal sanctity at par with the national anthem, that is Jana Gana Mana. So first of all, let's discuss what is our national song. What is our national song? So our national song is Vande Mataram. Is Vande Mataram. Now Vande Mataram, who wrote this? Who wrote the national song of India? It was written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. ठीक है. So Mr. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, he wrote a book called Anandamath. He wrote a book called Anandamath. Now this Anandamath is a book which basically describes the Sannyasi rebellion against the British. Which basically it is based on the Sannyasi rebellion which was done against the British in the 18th century. In the 18th century. So in this book Anand Mat itself, there is a poem called Vande Mataram, which was adopted by our Constituent Assembly as our national song. As our national song. Now what has the Parliament done? So Parliament has amended Prevention of Insults to National Honour Amendment Bill 2026. So this bill was presented in the Rajya Sabha. What was the bill? Prevention of Insults to National Honour Amendment Bill 2026. So it is not a new bill, it's an amendment bill. So which the original bill was Prevention of Insults to National Honour Act 1971. It was the original law 1971. So the original law made which it had made insult to the national anthem and national flag and the constitution a criminal offence. So originally Prevention of Insults to the National Honour Act 1971, which was the original law. So that law had criminalized insult to the national anthem, which is our Jana Gana Mana, written by Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, national flag, and the Constitution of India. So the original act, which was basically Prevention of Insults to the National Honour Act 1971, it had criminalized insult to national anthem, national flag, and Constitution of India. But now this amendment bill adds a fourth basically entity, which is our national song, which says that even insult to the national song will also be treated as a criminal offence. ठीक है. So the bill states that, if you look at here, the bill states that intentionally preventing the singing of the national song or causing disturbance to any assembly engaged in its singing will be punishable with an imprisonment for a term which may extend to 3 years or fine or both. So this is the punishment which has been granted. So the Union Minister said that when Bankim Chandra Chatterjee composed the national song in the year 1875. So when was the national song composed? In the year 1875. He had said that one day it will be on every Indian's lips as a mantra. So this was what he said. He also said that Congress President Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru limited the national song to only 2 stanzas in 1937. Now he went on to add that in 1938, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, as the Congress President, had urged Timir Baran Bhattacharya to compose the full version of the song. So who composed the full version of the song? It was composed by a composer whose name was Timir Baran Bhattacharya. Now let's talk about the polity aspect of this bill basically. So this bill was introduced in Rajya Sabha. So this is an ordinary bill. So we know that ordinary bill can either be a public member bill or it can be a private member bill. So what is a public member bill? A public member bill is that bill which is introduced in the parliament by a minister, while a private member bill is that bill which is introduced by a non-minister. So this particular bill, which is your Prevention of Insults to the National Honour Amendment Bill 2026, it was introduced in the House by the Minister of State for Home Affairs, Mr. Nityanand Rai. So this automatically becomes a public member bill. Why? Because he is Minister of State in the Council of Ministers. So it's a public member bill. Now another aspect of ordinary bill is that it can be introduced in either house of the parliament, either in Lok Sabha or in Rajya Sabha. So this bill was introduced in the Rajya Sabha. Okay. So talking about this, Now that this bill has been passed by the Rajya Sabha, this bill will go to the Lok Sabha. So in Rajya Sabha, the bill had gone through three readings: first reading, second reading, third reading. In the third reading, the bill was put to a vote, and the bill was passed by a simple majority. So what is the majority required to pass a ordinary bill? You require a simple majority. Now after being passed by the Rajya Sabha, the bill went to the Lok Sabha. Now goes to the Lok Sabha. In Lok Sabha again, the bill will go through the three stages. That is first reading, second reading, third reading. Okay. And then the bill, if the bill is passed by the Lok Sabha also with a simple majority, then the bill will go to the President of India for her assent. Then the bill goes to the President of India for her assent. If the President gives her assent, if the President of India gives her assent, the bill will become an act. The bill will become an act. Basically, it will become a law. But if the President uses her veto power, so there are three veto powers available with the President of India. Which are those? Number one is your absolute veto. Absolute veto. मतलब president withholds her assent. If the president uses her absolute veto, the bill will become null and void and bill will become dead. President may also use suspensive veto. Suspensive veto. So if the president uses suspensive veto, in that case, president will be able to send back the bill back to the House Parliament for reconsideration. But the president of India can utilize this power only once. If the Parliament sends the bill back again to the president with or without any changes, this time president will have to give her assent. So president can send the bill back only once. And third veto which the president can use is pocket veto. Now, pocket veto is not necessarily a veto. Basically, it's a loophole in the law, which basically there is no timeline mentioned in the constitution that within what period president has to give her assent. So, if president does not take any action over the bill and keeps the bill pending, so this is basically suppose that president is using her pocket veto. Pocket veto. Now, if this is the case when both the houses passes the bill. But what if now today Rajya Sabha has passed the bill, let's say Lok Sabha rejects the bill. Now it is very unlikely. Why? Because it's a public member bill, and public member bill generally gets passed in the Lok Sabha. Why it gets passed in the Lok Sabha? Because in Lok Sabha the government has a majority. But what if, hypothetically speaking, let's say Lok Sabha rejects the bill, or Lok Sabha does not take any action over the bill for 6 months. Or third case, let's say Lok Sabha passes the bill with certain amendment, but those amendments are not acceptable to the Rajya Sabha. So if any of the three scenario takes place, this is called a situation of deadlock. A situation of deadlock has arisen. A situation of deadlock has arisen. Now, in order to resolve deadlock between the two houses, President of India calls for a joint sitting of the House. Calls for a joint sitting of the House. Joint sitting where both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha participates. This is called the joint sitting of the House. Now, joint sitting of the House. Now, there are some rules about joint sitting. Joint sitting of the House, both the houses, is presided over by the Speaker of Lok Sabha, and the rules of Lok Sabha will be applicable in the joint sitting. Let's say the Speaker is absent or the post is vacant. In that case, the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha will preside over. Let's say that post also is vacant or the Deputy Speaker is absent. In that case, the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha will preside over. Let's say even Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha is also not there. In that case, any member nominated by the President of India will preside over the joint sitting. But in no case, the Chairman of Rajya Sabha will preside over the joint sitting. Okay. In no case, the Chairman of Rajya Sabha, who is also basically the Vice President of India, will preside over the joint sitting of both the houses. Okay. So this is the bill which is passed by Rajya Sabha and some polity associated with it. Let's move to the next news. Now the next news about Finance Ministry has released an economic policy review basically report for the month of July. So what does the report says? So in the report, so if we discuss about the report, it says that in the wake of the persistent standoff in West Asia, the Indian economy continues to face an upside risk to inflation, fiscal and current account deficits, and downside risk to growth. So basically says that because of the ongoing war in West Asia, so three challenges are there. So inflation may rise. So what is inflation? Inflation is basically change in price level of a product or a service over a year. It's called inflation. So suppose Last year the price of a product was 10 rupees. Today it has become 20 rupees. So what is the inflation? Inflation will be 20 minus 10 divided by 10 into 100, which is basically 100%. So hypothetically speaking, this is the meaning of inflation. Next it says, and talking further about inflation. So see, so what, there are different kinds of inflation. So majorly we there are two kinds of inflation. One is called CPI and other is called WPI. So CPI stands for consumer price index, while WPI stands for wholesale price index. ठीक है. So CPI measures the inflation from consumers point of view, ठीक है, retailers point of view, from our point of view. CPI measures from our point of view, while WPI measures inflation at a wholesale level, at an industrial scale. ठीक है. So you know that if you go to market and buy one egg, let's say it cost 10 rupees. ठीक है. But if you go and buy, let's say 10,000 egg, so the price may come down to 5 rupees. So CPI measures inflation at this level, while WPI measures inflation at this level. ठीक है. CPI, WPI. Okay. Fine. So now the parliament has given the target to the RBI that the inflation in India, that basically CPI, the CPI should remain somewhere between 4% plus minus 2%. This is the target given to the committee called Monetary Policy Committee, basically, which is headed by the RBI governor. The target has been given that the inflation should be contained within this limit. Okay, but now the review report says that the inflation may go up. Inflation may go up because of the ongoing war. This is the first challenge. Second challenge, it says that fiscal deficit will also go up. Fiscal deficit might also go up. Now, what is fiscal deficit? See, fiscal deficit is basically the difference of how much the government is spending, basically expenditure of the government minus the revenue of the government. Minus the revenue of the government is basically called your fiscal deficit. Okay? So basically in simple term, it means how much the government earns minus how much the government spends. Okay? So of course you cannot spend more than you earn, right? So but at times you have to do it. So so there is an act called FRBM Act. FRBM Act stands for Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act 2003. So this act basically says that the fiscal deficit, basically difference between how much the government is earning and how much the government is spending. Okay? So deficit is, so if the government spends more than it earns, it is called fiscal deficit. If the government spends less than its earning, it is called fiscal surplus. And if expenditure and earning is same, it is called fiscal balance. Now the FRBM Act says that, of 2003, it says that fiscal deficit should not be more than 3.5% of the GDP. Fiscal deficit should not be more than 3.5% of the GDP. Now what is the meaning of that? Fiscal deficit, I told you, yes, government can spend more than its earning, but how much more it can spend? Only restricted to 3.5% of India's total GDP. Okay? Now you will ask, obviously the question comes, how, if the government is spending more than its earning, from where the government is bringing the rest of the money? So government is bringing the rest of the money via loan. Okay? So let's say your salary is 1 lakh rupees and you are spending 1,10,000 rupees. So this 10,000 rupees, how are you bringing it? Either via using your credit card or by taking loan from the bank. So similarly, government spends more than its earning. By taking loan. So basically you can also understand fiscal deficit is the amount of loan which the government of India borrows. That is also can be understood as fiscal deficit. Now, fiscal deficit to a certain limit is good for the economy. It means that government is spending for the infrastructure creation. So fiscal deficit up till a limit is good. But what is the limit? As per the FRBM Act, the limit is 3.5% of GDP. If the fiscal deficit is limited to this limit, this number, then it is good for the economy. Okay? we don't want a fiscal surplus budget also. Fiscal surplus matlab government is earning money but not spending in the economy. Okay? So what we want, a fiscal deficit to a certain extent, around 3.5%. But now, because of the ongoing war, this review report says that the fiscal deficit might go up. Why? Because now our expenditure has increased. We are paying more for the oil, crude oil and other products, while our earning has remained constant. So the fiscal deficit may go up. Third thing, it says that the current account deficit will also go up. The current account deficit will also go up. Now, what is current account deficit? What is current account deficit? Current account deficit. So, if you look at the balance of payment, under balance of payment, there are two types of account: current account, capital account. Now, under current account, there is one called trade, net trade. How much, basically, how much we are exporting, how much we are importing. So, net of that is called trade, balance of trade. So, if you look at India's balance of trade, we are importing more compared to our export. See, this include trade of both goods and services. Trade of both goods and services. So basically, we are exporting more, importing more compared to our export. Other components of current account are basically your remittances. Remittances, the money which the Indians send from abroad, remittances. Here we are in a net surplus. India's net surplus is around $80 billion. So India is the highest receiver of foreign remittances. Then other things include like gifts, etc. Okay? So overall, if you see, India suffers a current account deficit. Matlab, overall, our net trade is in negative. Matlab, we are importing more in value compared to what we are exporting. So if you are buying goods worth rupees 100 rupees from outside, we are selling only 80 rupees worth good to the outside. Okay? So now, anyway, we were in current account deficit, and now the report says because of the ongoing war, the current account deficit will further increase. The current account deficit will further increase. So these will go up, while the downside risk to the growth. So growth will basically decline because our expenditure is increasing while our income is remaining constant. So our growth will ultimately go down. Further report says that the recent resurgence in the global crude oil. So why it is happening? Because of the recent resurgence in the global crude oil prices. So if sustained, could re-emerge as a source of pressure on financing both fiscal deficit and the current account balance. Another thing which the report says that prices of industrial commodities including critical minerals and rare earth minerals have stayed elevated throughout the month. So prices of critical mineral and rare earth minerals have also gone up. See, we majorly source our rare earth minerals or important critical minerals like copper from Chile in South America. But what happened in Chile? Chile, one of the key copper suppliers, basically is going through flooding. So from there, the supply has got basically disturbed, or the prices have gone up. So again, adding pressure to the fiscal deficit and current account balance of India. The current account balance of India. So if you're talking about what positives did the report says? So the strong export performance, a sustained services surplus, and robust remittances inflows have supported the current account. So current account, even though the trade deficit is there, we are exporting less goods compared to what we are importing. But in field of services, so in services we are in net positive. Matlab, the amount of services which we export is more than the amount of net services which we import. So in services, there is a net surplus. Again, in field of remittance, as I told you, remittance. What are remittance? The money sent from abroad by Indians. So in field of remittance also, we are in positive. Matlab, the amount of money sent by Indians from abroad is way more than the amount of money which foreigners living in India send to their parent country. So we are in field of remittance also, we are in surplus. So this is one positive thing. Okay, now. So the report further says that even though there has been an increase in the prices of fuels like CNG, petrol and diesel, almost 8.4%, 7.5%, 6.2%, but its overall impact over the consumer has been quite moderate. Okay? So the increase in, let's say, fare of public transport or airline fares, it has been low compared to basically your if you see proportionally what is the overall rise in the fuel prices. So this is your economic review report released by the Finance Ministry of India for the month of July. Okay. Now let's go to the next news. So the next article is about the use of antibiotics. Is about the use of antibiotics. So it talks about the recent report, published in the Lancet, a magazine. Public Health has highlighted what infectious disease experts in India have known for years, that India uses too many broad spectrum watch antibiotics and too few first line access antibiotics. See, antibiotics are used to treat basically your bacteria, infectious bacteria or harmful bacteria. In order to treat them, we use antibiotics. So, see, so there are two kinds of antibiotics. One is called basically broad spectrum watch antibiotics, and other is called first line access antibiotics. So, watch antibiotics, which is a very high level antibiotic, and access antibiotic, which is a very low level antibiotic. But in India, we see that the patients have been using more of high level antibiotics compared to the initial level antibiotics. Now, because of that, what is happening? See, because of that, a phenomenon called AMR is arising. AMR stands for antimicrobial resistance. Antimicrobial resistance. So, what is the meaning of this? So, see, what happens generally if you use too much antibiotics? If you use too much antibiotics, so the bacteria inside your body, will slowly start developing resistance against the antibiotic. And the time will come when that bacteria will become something called a superbacteria. Will become a superbacteria or superbacteria. Now this bacteria will be resistant against the antibiotic. So slowly it will develop resistance against the antibiotic. So that's why it is prescribed that the antibiotic should be used only in extreme cases. And not for mild symptoms. Antibiotics should not be used. Okay. But the question comes, why in India then there is so much use of antibiotics? Why in India there is so much use of antibiotics? So the article says that doctors frequently prescribe antibiotics before a definitive diagnosis is available, because patients often presently. First of all, in India, what happens? Patients do not consult doctors at the preliminary stage. So if you have mild fever, we try to treat it at home only without consulting doctors. We go to the doctors only when our symptoms become very grave. So doctors have no option but to prescribe high level antibiotics. Second, there are very less diagnostic facilities are limited or unreliable. Okay. So generally what should be the rule? First, the doctor should prescribe some test. Only after the test reports come, seeing the test report, doctor should decide whether antibiotics should be prescribed or not. But what is happening in India? In India, there is a very less number of diagnostic facilities, and even among them, many of them are not reliable. So doctors, what they are basically forced to prescribe antibiotics without following the SOP, which is basically to first go for test and then medicine prescription. But doctors directly prescribe medicine. Okay. Third, it says that okay, and treatment decisions cannot always wait. Treatment decisions cannot always wait. Similarly, inadequate infection prevention and control in healthcare facilities increase the likelihood of healthcare infection, prompting clinicians to choose a broader spectrum agent from the outset. Okay, so it says that inadequate infection prevention and control in healthcare facilities. Even in hospitals, there's very less attention towards the hygiene. So there also the infection may increase. So doctors are always prompted to basically go for high level antibiotics. In other words, antibiotics are often used to compensate for systemic weakness. ठीक है ना? So because there is a weakness in our healthcare system, to compensate that, high level antibiotics are used. So what are the solutions for this? So the first priority is strengthening the infection prevention. So we have to prevent infection only, so that bacterial infection do not expand. So for that, better water, sanitation, hygiene, wider use of vaccines, and sustained investment in infection prevention and control programs in hospitals So this is what the government should do go for. Now, Government of India has launched initiative like Kayakalp. Government of India has launched an initiative called Kayakalp, which basically improves the cleanliness in public hospitals. It improves the cleanliness in public hospitals, preventing healthcare associated infections. Requires but it requires continuous investment in trained infection control personnel, surveillance system, antimicrobial stewardship, and institutional accountability. Okay, so the system so even though the Kayakalp is a good initiative, but it requires a continuous investment, continuous training to the cleaning staff. Okay, then there should be a surveillance system. So the first step which the government of India should take, or any government should take, is to basically curtail infection, spread of infection. Second priority is strengthening diagnostic capacity. So in the previous lines, I told you that doctors generally doctors should first prescribe what diagnosis. After the reports come, based on the reports, number one, very less diagnostic facilities, and those which are available, all of them cannot be trusted also. So the article says that second priority should be strengthening the diagnostic capacities. Rational antibiotic prescribing is only possible when clinicians have confidence in the laboratory result. So India has begun building up this through National Health Mission, Free Diagnostic Services Initiative, National Essential Diagnostic List, and expanded the lab network. So what has the government of India done in this regard? So number one, we have launched National Health Mission, under which there is a Free Diagnostic Service Initiative. So labs are there which are free of cost. Then National Essential Diagnostic List, and the lab networks has been expanded. Lab networks has been expanded. Then again, the article says that we have to improve laboratory quality, the accreditation, basically the certification, the turnaround time, when you give your sample and when you get the report, the turnaround time, and confidence in microbiology report is also important. Third, and the most important, education. So the article says education central. Clinicians need training in antimicrobial stewardship, evidence based prescribing. Communities must understand that antibiotics do not treat viral infections, and that demanding them for every fever is harmful in the long term. So the article says that your antibiotics are only helpful against bacterial infection. In viral infections, antibiotics will not help. So education is also very important. Education is also very important. So India, which is basically account for 1/5 of the world's population, so India should pay focus towards these kind of things, because we have to take care of the health of India. If India will be healthy, then only we can talk about development of India. And this antimicrobial resistance is a grave threat to India's health infrastructure, which should be treated at a very initial stage only, so that it does not expand further. So this is all about today's news. We shall discuss tomorrow's news tomorrow. Okay, thank you very much.